two of my absolute, not only favorite songwriters, but favorite human beings. Y'all welcome Kelly Lovelace and Lee Thomas Miller. Story behind the song this week for the Tennessean and Tennessean.com. I'm Still a Guy, the great Brad Paisley tune. Kelly, take us back. How did this thing start? Remember the idea?
Well, Lee and I, have great opportunity to write with Brad Paisley a lot, and he is a very gifted writer, as we all know, and he's very hard to impress. And so Lee and I got together every Tuesday, and back then sometimes even more, just brainstorming, trying to find something that would impress him. And we hadn't impressed him in a while, and so we were just sitting there in my office on Brad's farm, and just talking about things, and I think Lee may remember it differently. It's funny how sometimes you remember things different. But I think I'd thrown out the gist of the first couple lines, and Lee said, "What's that?" I said, "I don't know. He'll record that." And he said, "What's the title?" I said, "No idea. He'll record that." And then Lee started working on this melody that just seemed so perfect for that. And then we just kind of got it in outline form, enough to where we could, present it to Brad.
I remember another part. I don't remember. I knew that we were beating our heads against the wall because he hated everything we'd been coming up with. And he was actually in the studio at the time, best I remember. And we kind of got off track, and I just asked Kelly's opinion about, Brad's married to Kim, and Kim's a big movie star, and, they have pet unicorns and stuff, so their life's different than everybody else's. And they're so, perfect. Like, it seemed like their life is just, they seem like a great couple. They seem happy. And I just said, man, do you think when, late at night when nobody's around, do you think they kind of redneck trailer park fight like the rest of us with our wives? Do you think everybody just loses it and they just blow it out? And I remember Kelly said, I don't know. They seem pretty happy. He says, but maybe he's still a guy.
Oh, light bulb moment. Do you remember the light bulb going off in that moment, Kelly?
Yeah, and I think when we, because Lee, like, placing that in there, and I think we were thinking, is that it? Is that I'm still a guy? Because you're just forming it,
Right.
And so, but it seemed like that was the best thing we'd come up with at the time, and it seemed to work.
But Brad didn't like it. Like, we kind of roughed in some stuff and run over to the studio and played it for him, and he, no, that's stupid, or whatever.
Yeah. He didn't like, and granted, we didn't have a chorus yet or anything, but we just had the, some of the lines that we thought were really funny that he would love. And like Lee said, he didn't quite love it. And what he didn't like the most, even after recording it, he didn't like the word guy. He really wanted to change that. He goes, is there something else? Is it I'm still a guy? And so, well, it can't be I'm still a man, or I'm still
nothing else would rhyme.
Nothing else would work. But he still wasn't good with it for a bit, and he did not think it was a single at first.
So I guess there's a two-part question. What turned him around in the first place, put it on the album, and how did it become a single if he didn't love it? Do you remember that, or was that behind the big record label curtain? You never knew.
Well, best I remember, there always comes this moment where Brad has to play stuff for the label, and so then, you've jumped through the first hoop of finding something he likes, and then you jump through the hoops of getting him to record it, and then he wants it to make the record, but then the label ultimately, they could just kind of veto everything. And Kelly called and said, hey, he's playing stuff for the label today or something. And, so you hold your breath and wait to see what your fate is, to see if you've been kicked off the island. And then from what I remember was they were going through the stuff, and what's so funny is Joe Galante was the head of the label at the time, and he could not possibly be more opposite of the guy in the song. He's very very slick and loafers in New York, and and I thought that alone was going to be a problem. Yeah. But as I remember it, Joe thought immediately it was a smash, and I even think Joe went as far as to say, quote, they'll buy that. And
yeah.
I think he's the one that drove the train that said, we're going to put this out. And I think Brad was terrified because he's like, oh my God, seriously? He's just come off a Whiskey Lullaby and When I Get Where I'm Going. And he says, do you think this will work? And they were absolutely adamant that it would. And it did.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute, Kelly. You go back to the earliest days of Brad. I've always admired them. I've never been able to tell him this, but his wife's an actor, but I always kind of felt like Brad was too. He just got this ability to communicate to whatever the audience may be, kings, paupers, presidents, prisoners. But a hard thing to do, man, is write a humorous country song that's got a shelf life. I've always thought Paisley did that. Y'all wrote the song, but I thought he was great at performing and cutting those, and then he took them to a whole new level with the videos. Wouldn't you agree with that? Because not many other people could do what Paisley did with the humorous song, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. It's he has obviously many gifts, but one is that self-deprecating, humor, to where he is a brilliant guy, but he also is okay playing just a funny character, like in Online and all those things. He's just, even like the Seinfeld thing with Costanza and stuff, he has the ability to be the brilliant, serious guy over here, like at least that Whiskey Lullaby, and then do something just, funny and light, like I'm Still a Guy, to relate, because he has a gift of relating to his fans and his audience and to radio. He's just very gifted at it. And the night that he came over, the most fun part for Lee and I was the time when we got him over there. Finally, we had it to a place where he did at least want to entertain writing it. And it was just one of those nights. We finished, I think, like 4:00 in the morning. It was a very late night. But we were all on at the same time. And Brad specifically, once he got locked on it, he was throwing out some lines and stuff. And it really was so easy and so fun to write once we all three got together. And he was laughing and high-fiving, and we got to the last verse, and I think Lee threw out the Botox thing. and then I said, so how are we going to rhyme Botox? Brad says, listen. And he played it, and it came with a tackle box. It's like, oh my God, okay. All right. Yeah, and so we're laughing and high-fiving, and then in all that jubilation, Brad gets a call from Kim. And you can take it from here, Lee, if you want. You remember she calls and says, Brad looks and goes,
well, we finished, and somewhere along the way that night he bought in. Like, he all of a sudden decided he really liked it, and so you kind of had a finished draft, and then he loves to rewrite. So you kind of gone back through and we tweaked and we had chiseled and we had made it as good as we thought it could be, and he was really feeling good about it. And Kim was so close to having a baby that her sister had come into town to stay with her. And so Kelly lives there on the same farm as them. And so literally we walk over to the house to play it after midnight sometime for Kim. And now this is another hoop, because if the wife doesn't like it, we have a problem. She may not think it's as funny as we do.
Especially that song.
Right. So I'm a nervous wreck. And of course, Kim's sister Ashley is also a famous actress. This is a tough audience, right? And one of them is like 12 months pregnant. Like, she may be emotional, she may not be in the mood. I don't know this. I wish we didn't have to do this, And we go over, and he's so convinced it's great, and he says, "You've got to hear this." And so he plays it. Well, you know how if one person is laughing at something, it's funnier for everybody else, right? Yeah. And so right out of the gate, Ashley is crying, laughing, which Kim might have thought it was funny anyway, but it made it that much more magnified because Ashley is dying, and Kim is listening but watching Ashley, and Kim's laughing harder because Ashley's laughing harder. And this, every important part of the song was just a home run. I mean, it turned out to be the greatest audience ever. Like, wow. Yes, this has solidified it. We're validated. This could not go any better. We're high-fiving. We go back across the field, back to the farm. We're smoking cigars. We're laughing. Man, that went great. And then, Kelly,
Yeah, and then he gets a call from Kim, and he says, "Your water broke." And
What?
I looked over at Lee. We're thinking like, what a terrible time for a miracle child. You know, what about our moment? You know. So he gets up and he starts going down the office steps, and we're just sheepishly following behind him. And he gets to the driveway, and he starts to jog a little bit. Said, "You know, just drive you over there." And he goes, "No, I'm going to run." And his little white cowboy hat disappeared over the horizon. And I think Lee said, "Do you still love the song?" Oh, no.
Oh man!
And I remember Kelly mumbled something like, "It'd be cool to cut the last song you wrote before you had a kid." What about our dreams?
Wow, that is.
What about us?
Knowing you two that well, I've never heard that part of the story, and that just makes it. And a special shout out to Kimberly Paisley's sister Ashley, who's the secret of this story behind the song. I'm Still a Guy, got by Brad Paisley, written along with Kelly Lovelace and Lee Miller. Story behind the song this week from the Tennessean and Tennessean.com.